Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Earth's doom was sealed, until one signal turned the tide. Commander Vex Torin stood on the command bridge of the Dominion warship Inevitability, his four arms crossed behind his back as he gazed at the holographic display of their next target solar system. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, punctuated by the twinkling of distant stars that his species had long since catalogued, conquered, or destroyed. Another day, another planetary system to add to the glorious Nari Dominion, Vex drawled, his voice dripping with the boredom that came from 300 cycles of successful conquest campaigns. Tell me, Lieutenant Cora, what's so special about this one? Because honestly, I'm getting tired of the same routine. Arrive, terrify, conquer next. Lieutenant Cora Melix, his second-in-command, suppressed a chuckle as she swiped through the data screens with practiced efficiency. Her scaled fingers danced across the control panel, bringing up more detailed scans of the unremarkable yellow star and its orbiting planets. "Well, Commander," she replied with equal sarcasm, "this one has water. Can you believe it? H2O, who would have thought?" The bridge crew erupted in theatrical gasps and exaggerated amazement. "No, not water," Navigation Officer Drez exclaimed, slapping his forehead with a dramatic flair. "That's only found on 70% of habitable planets we've conquered." Vex couldn't help but laugh, his mandibles clicking together in amusement. The Council of Elders really outdid themselves this time. Next, they'll tell us this planet also has, gasp, oxygen. 65 conquests and counting, Weapons Master Pellan chimed in from her station, not bothering to look up from polishing her ceremonial blade. "And they're all starting to blur together. Remember Proxima B? The natives actually thought throwing rocks at our ships would save them. Rocks." The command bridge, a massive chamber of gleaming metal and pulsing lights, housed the 50 highest-ranking officers of the Nari conquest fleet. Behind them, spread across the vast expanse of space, 300 warships maintained perfect formation, each one capable of reducing a planet's surface to molten slag within hours. "The Elders have designated this system as Priority Target 7783B, Lieutenant Cora continued, attempting to inject some semblance of professionalism into the briefing. "Standard procedure. We assess, we conquer, we extract resources, we move on." "And if there are sentients?" Communications Officer Wren, the newest addition to the bridge crew, asked. Commander Vex turned slowly, fixing the young officer with all three of his piercing, luminescent eyes. "Then we do what we always do, Officer Wren. We give them the choice, serve or perish." A moment of silence fell over the bridge, quickly broken by Vex's sudden burst of laughter. "Sorry I couldn't keep up the serious act," he snorted, slapping Wren's shoulder with enough force to make the junior officer stumble. "You should see your face. All new recruits ask the same question with that same worried expression. Relax, this is conquest number 66 for me. It's practically a vacation at this point." The tactical display shifted, showing their projected course through the system: 8 planets, countless moons, and a standard asteroid belt. Preliminary scans indicated potential resources on several worlds, but only the third planet from the star showed signs of advanced civilization. "Commander," Science Officer Lin called out, her voice carrying a rare note of curiosity. "The third planet, they call it Earth, shows unusual readings. The electromagnetic emissions are chaotic." "Chaotic how?" Vex asked, finally showing a spark of interest. "Disorganized, varied, unlike anything we've encountered in previous conquests. It's as if," she paused, searching for the right words, "as if they're broadcasting thousands of different signals simultaneously with no apparent central control." Commander Vex stretched his arms wide and yawned dramatically. "Probably just another primitive civilization discovering radio waves for the first time. Remember the Zor system? They were broadcasting their mating rituals across half the galaxy." The bridge erupted in laughter again. "Set course for the third planet," Vex ordered, dropping into his command chair with practiced nonchalance. "Standard approach. Let's get this over with so we can all go home and spend our conquest bonuses." The mighty engines of the inevitability hummed to life, propelling the massive fleet toward the unsuspecting blue planet that hung, vulnerable and oblivious, against the backdrop of endless stars. Earth, Vex muttered to himself, testing the strange name on his tongue. Let's see what you've got. Well, that is certainly blue, Commander Vex remarked as the magnificent sphere of Earth filled the main view screen. Very, very blue. Did someone spill an ocean? The Nexar fleet had decelerated to sublight speed at the edge of the solar system, maintaining stealth protocols as they slipped past the gas giants and approached the inner planets. Standard procedure dictated observation before engagement, a formality Vex considered increasingly unnecessary given their overwhelming technological superiority. Preliminary scans complete, Commander, Science Officer Lin announced, her six-fingered hands moving rapidly across her console. Atmosphere is nitrogen-oxygen mix. Water covers approximately 71% of the surface. Gravity 9.8 ms2. Temperature ranges from -50 to 50 degrees C depending on latitude. Life forms everywhere. Everywhere? Define everywhere, Lieutenant Cora demanded, raising one elegantly ridged eyebrow. Lin's expression shifted to something between confusion and admiration. I mean literally everywhere, Lieutenant. The oceans are teeming with aquatic organisms. The land masses are covered in vegetation and animal life. Even the atmosphere contains billions of microorganisms. The biodiversity is unprecedented in our records. Fascinating, Vex replied with mock enthusiasm, spinning lazily in his command chair. So it's wet and crawling with creatures. Sounds like my vacation home during rainy season. The bridge crew snickered dutifully at their commander's joke, but Science Officer Lin remained focused on her readings. What about the dominant species? Weapons Master Pelin asked, finally looking up from her blade with genuine interest. Are they worth fighting, or will this be another disappointment? She twirled her ceremonial knife between her fingers, the edge catching the light. The last 3 planets surrendered before I could even test my new disintegration cannon. Lin pulled up visual data on the main screen, replacing the planet view with images captured from their long-range scanners. The bridge fell silent as they observed sprawling cities connected by vast networks of primitive roadways, vehicles powered by combustion engines, aircraft that relied on aerodynamics rather than gravitational manipulation, ocean vessels that floated rather than hovered. Humans, Lin stated simply. Bipedal mammals, carbon-based. Average height 1.7 m, average lifespan less than 100 cycles. Technology level, pre-interstellar. They haven't even colonized their own moon permanently. They can't even reach their own moon, Navigation Officer Drez exclaimed, slapping his console in amusement. We were traveling between stars when my great-great ancestors were hatchlings. Don't get too smug, Drez, Vex cautioned, though his tone remained light. Remember the crawl, primitive technology, but they managed to take down 12 of our ships before we figured out their electromagnetic pulse weapons. The humans have no such capabilities, Lin assured them, continuing to scroll through data. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear fission devices and rudimentary ballistic missiles, nothing that could penetrate our shields. Their computers are quaint, silicon-based binary. Anything unusual we should be aware of? Lieutenant Cora asked, maintaining her professional demeanor despite the relaxed atmosphere on the bridge. Lin hesitated. Well, yes, 2 things. First, they appear to be divided into approximately 195 separate nation-states, each with its own government, military, and cultural identity. They have no unified planetary defense system or centralized command structure. That's good news for us, Vex noted. Divide and conquer is practically done for us already, and the second thing. Their communications, Lin said, her voice revealing genuine puzzlement. They're everywhere. Constant, chaotic radio signals, digital transmissions, satellite communications, billions of discrete data streams simultaneously. It's overwhelming our filters. Weapons Master Pelin laughed sharply. Who cares if their best weapons are nuclear pea shooters? Let them chat all they want before we melt their cities. Commander Vex rose from his chair and approached the view screen, studying the blue planet with new interest. No, Lin's right to flag this. Unusual communication patterns can indicate unusual thought patterns. Unusual thought patterns can lead to surprises. He turned to face his crew with a theatrical flourish. And I hate surprises during a conquest. Unless they're surprise parties with cake. I like cake. So what's the verdict, Commander? Communications Officer Wren asked. Standard approach? Vex clasped two of his hands behind his back while the other two gestured toward Earth. Let's do something different this time. Let's eavesdrop first. Intercept and analyze their communications for, one full rotation of their planet. Then we'll decide how to proceed. Monitoring all Earth communications, aye, Commander, Wren acknowledged, already reconfiguring the ship's sensors. I hope they say something interesting, Vex sighed, returning to his chair. The last civilization just kept broadcasting mathematical equations, boring. As the massive fleet settled into orbit beyond Mars, hidden from Earth's primitive detection systems, no one aboard suspected that this standard conquest was about to become anything but standard. 24 Earth hours of monitoring complete, and I'm. Communications Officer Wren paused dramatically, completely baffled. The command bridge of the inevitability had transformed overnight. What began as a routine surveillance operation had evolved into something resembling a bizarre entertainment center. Officers who weren't on essential duty had gathered around various stations, each tuned to different Earth broadcasts. Commander Vex wandered between groups, occasionally stopping to watch snippets of human transmissions with increasing bewilderment. "What are we watching?" he demanded, gesturing wildly at a screen showing humans in elaborate costumes pretending to fight while an audience cheered. "They call it professional wrestling, Commander," Lieutenant Cora explained, looking equally confused. "It appears to be ritualized combat that isn't actually combat. They pretend to hurt each other for entertainment." "And over here," Science Officer Lin called out, "they're watching small, furry animals do nothing, just existing. Millions of humans watching animals sleep and occasionally lick themselves." "Cat videos," Navigation Officer Drez clarified, not taking his eyes off the screen. "Highly addictive. I've watched 47 in succession. I can't explain why." Weapons Master Pellan stood before another screen, her ceremonial blade forgotten in its sheath as she watched humans voluntarily consume extremely spicy food while screaming and crying. "This makes no sense. They're in pain but laughing. Is it torture, recreation, a mating ritual?" "It's called a Hot Wings Challenge," someone explained. Commander Vex planted all four hands on his hips, surveying the chaos his bridge had become. "Has anyone found anything tactically useful in all this noise?" "Yes and no, Commander," Wren replied, attempting to organize the data. "We've intercepted military communications, government transmissions, educational broadcasts, but they're swimming in a sea of everything else. News, entertainment, personal communications, something called social media, which appears to be billions of humans simultaneously sharing their immediate thoughts and reactions to, well, everything." "Give me a summary," Vex ordered, dropping back into his command chair. Wren cleared his throat. "Humans appear to communicate almost constantly about virtually everything. They broadcast their art, their conflicts, their meals, their pets, their opinions, their bodies, their daily activities. They argue publicly about politics and religion while simultaneously sharing detailed scientific research freely across their global information network." "So they're just noisy," Lieutenant Cora suggested. "No," Wren said, shaking his head emphatically. "There's something else, something I can't quite." "Commander," Science Officer Lin's voice cut through the bridge like a laser blast. "I found something, a transmission different from the others." All eyes turned to her station as she transferred the data to the main view screen. A simple text message appeared, reportedly transmitted from a remote research station in a place called Antarctica to a colleague half a world away. "This is it, Commander?" Vex asked skeptically. "This is your urgent discovery, a personal message between two humans." "Read it, Commander," Lin insisted, her voice unusually serious. The bridge fell silent as they all read the short message. "Hey Sam, the isolation experiment is killing me, but I keep going. Finished the 5th batch of tests today. Failed again. That's 347 consecutive failures now, but I'm laughing. Each failure teaches me something new. Think about it. 347 ways not to solve the problem. Tomorrow is attempt 348, and I'm stupidly excited. Maybe I'll fail in a completely new way. Humans, right? We don't know when to quit. Sending data packets separately. Miss you all, Dr. Alina Reyes. For several long moments, nobody spoke. Then, very quietly, Science Officer Lin said, "This is the fifth such message we've intercepted from different humans in different fields. The contexts vary, but the pattern is identical." "What pattern?" Commander Vex asked, his usual sarcasm absent. "Repeated failure, continued effort, enthusiasm despite defeat." Lin looked around at her fellow officers, her expression grave. "Commander, I think we found their weapon." "Their weapon?" Commander Vex repeated, his three eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Lin, have you been drinking fermented Zolter juice again? It's a message about failing. How is failure a weapon?" The command bridge had gone from chaotic entertainment center to tense war room in moments. Officers abandoned their screens of cat videos and cooking competitions, gathering instead around Science Officer Lin's station. "I don't understand it either, Commander," Lin admitted, her fingers flying across her console. "But look at the pattern. Here's another intercepted message, this one from something called a startup company." She displayed another transmission. "Team update, investors pulled out after our 9th pivot. We're down to our last 3 months of runway. Everyone's working without salary now. But guess what? Jason cracked the algorithm last night. We're closer than ever. Pizza and coding session this weekend. Who's in?" Lieutenant Cora leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "They're celebrating imminent financial ruin." "And another," Lin continued, pulling up a third message from a human athlete to her coach. "Failed Olympic qualification by 0.3 seconds. Devastated but determined. Increasing training to 6 hours daily. See you at 5:00 a.m. tomorrow. We'll get it next time." Weapons Master Pellan slammed her fist on the console. "This makes no sense. In Nexar culture, failure leads to disgrace. Repeated failure leads to exile or death. No one celebrates inadequacy." "Perhaps it's a code," Navigation Officer Drez suggested. Communications Officer Wren shook his head. "We've analyzed the linguistic patterns. These are genuine communications, not encrypted messages." Commander Vex paced the bridge, all pretense of boredom evaporated. "Expand the search parameters. I want every communication involving failure, defeat, setbacks, anything along those lines." "Already on it, Commander," Wren replied. "The results are overwhelming." The main view screen filled with thousands, then millions of data points, each representing a human communication involving failure and persistence. Personal messages, public speeches, historical documents, literature, entertainment, scientific papers, educational materials. "They're everywhere," Wren exclaimed, genuine alarm in his voice. "By the void, these humans talk about failure more than they talk about success." "Show me their historical record," Vex demanded. "Major wars, disasters, setbacks." Lin complied, bringing up a condensed timeline of human history. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the screen filled with countless conflicts, plagues, natural disasters, and catastrophes spanning thousands of years. "Now overlay major technological and social advancements," Vex ordered, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. As the new data appeared on the timeline, a pattern emerged that caused several officers to step back from the screen. "They're correlated," Lieutenant Cora whispered. "Major advancements often followed directly after periods of extreme hardship or repeated failures." "Their space program," Navigation Officer Drez noted, pointing at a specific section. "Look at the early years, explosion after explosion, dead astronauts, billions in destroyed equipment. Any rational species would have abandoned the effort, but they kept going." "Their medical science, too," Science Officer Lin added. "Countless failed experiments, rejected hypotheses, useless drugs, then suddenly breakthroughs that doubled their lifespans within a few generations." Commander Vex turned to face his crew, all four of his arms crossed tightly across his chest. For perhaps the first time in his long career, he looked genuinely concerned. Comparative analysis, he instructed Lin. Match their advancement rate against their failure rate across all fields, then compare it to the Nexar Dominion and other conquered species. The results appeared within moments, and the command bridge fell into a silence so profound that the subtle hum of the ship's engines seemed deafening by comparison. "This can't be right," Weapons Master Pelan finally said, breaking the silence. "According to this data, humans advance faster when they encounter obstacles. Their innovation rate accelerates with resistance. That's not natural." "Commander," Lieutenant Cora muttered. Vex stared at the data, his expression unreadable. "Expand historical analysis. Show me their major conflicts with each other." The screen shifted to display Earth's world wars, Cold Wars, and regional conflicts. "Now show me the technological advancements that emerged during and immediately following these conflicts." As the data appeared, several officers gasped. The correlation was undeniable. Radar, nuclear energy, jet propulsion, computing, space flight, internet, advanced medicine, Lin read off. All developed during or immediately after periods of extreme conflict and challenge. Commander Vex turned slowly to face his crew, his expression grave. "I think we may have seriously miscalculated." "We need to understand this phenomenon," Commander Vex announced, his earlier sarcasm replaced by focused intensity. "Full spectrum analysis of their psychology, biology, history, culture, everything. Now." The command bridge transformed into a hive of activity. Officers who had spent decades conquering worlds without a second thought now worked with frantic energy, driven by something none would openly admit: fear. "Commander, I've compiled data on human biological responses to failure and stress," Science Officer Lin reported after several hours of intensive research. "It's extraordinary." The main screen displayed human neural scans, hormone levels, and cellular activity. Lin pointed to key indicators. "When humans encounter failure, their bodies release stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, standard response, similar to most species we've encountered." "So they're normal after all," Weapons Master Pelan interjected, clearly relieved. "No," Lin continued, shaking her head. "What happens next is the anomaly. After initial stress response, humans experiencing repeated failure often show increased dopamine activity during subsequent attempts. They literally become more motivated, more focused, more excited by the challenge." Lieutenant Cora frowned. "They get happier when they fail." "Not exactly," Lin clarified. "They experience pleasure in the process of overcoming failure. Their neural reward systems activate in response to progress, not just success. Small improvements after major setbacks trigger stronger pleasure responses than easy victories." Communications Officer Ren joined the conversation. "I've been analyzing their cultural artifacts, literature, films, historical narratives. There's a consistent pattern they call the hero's journey. Their most celebrated figures, both real and fictional, almost invariably face devastating failures before achieving greatness." "That makes no strategic sense," Commander Vex muttered, packing nervously. "In Nexar military doctrine, we abort missions at the first sign of significant resistance. Resources are preserved, casualties minimized." "Humans do the opposite," Navigation Officer Drez noted, his voice hushed with dawning horror. "They double down. Look at this human conflict called World War II. Several nations faced total occupation, cities reduced to rubble, millions dead, and they fought harder." "There's more," Lieutenant Cora added, her voice strained. "I've been studying their scientific method. It's built around failure. They create hypotheses specifically to test them to destruction. They celebrate disproving their own theories as progress. They reward scientists who identify flaws in established knowledge." Commander Vex stopped packing abruptly. "Are you telling me these creatures have institutionalized failure as a path to advancement?" "Yes," Lin confirmed, "and it works with terrifying efficiency." The command bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. It was Weapons Master Pelan who finally stated what everyone was thinking. "If we attack them, even if we win initially." "They'll learn from it," Vex finished grimly. They'll study our weapons, our tactics, our vulnerabilities, and they'll keep coming. Commander, Communications Officer Wren interrupted, his voice tight with urgency. I found something else. A transmission from their global information network. A quote widely shared among humans, attributed to someone named Winston Churchill during a period when their civilization faced potential extinction. The screen displayed the quote simple white text against a black background. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. For a long, breathless moment, no one spoke. Then Science Officer Lin whispered, "By the void. They're not just accepting failure, they expect it, they plan for it." There's a biological component as well, she continued, bringing up more data. Their entire evolutionary history is marked by adaptation to catastrophe, ice ages, predators, diseases, environmental shifts. Each time they emerged stronger. They evolved on a death world. Earth isn't just diverse, Lieutenant Cora realized. It's hostile. These humans evolved while constantly failing to survive, yet somehow surviving anyway. Commander Vex stood frozen, staring at the blue planet on the view screen. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. We've conquered 65 worlds, species that surrendered at the first demonstration of our power, species that fought traditionally, targeting our strengths with their strengths until they broke against our superior technology. But we've never encountered a species that would interpret defeat as a challenge. It's a species that might lose every battle but refuse to lose the war. He turned to face his crew, his three eyes wide with understanding. A species that would study each failure, adapt, improve, and attack again, potentially forever. They would never stop, Weapons Master Pelen whispered, her ceremonial blade slipping from suddenly nervous fingers. Even if we destroyed their cities, their nations, reduced them to primitive technology, they would rebuild, they would remember, they would improve, and eventually... Commander Vex concluded, his voice hollow. They would win. Emergency Command Council, Commander Vex ordered, his voice regaining some of its authority. Senior officers only, tactical room, 5 minutes.